When your husband dies, a part of you dies right along with him. The person that you were before, suddenly she's no longer here, and you wake up in a world that you don't recognize. And so, because of that, if you want to start healing, you probably need to change some things. So, if you're a widow, I'm glad you're here because today I want to share with you 5 things that I quit in order to start healing in my grief. And make sure you stick around for the last one because it's probably something that's going to surprise you and probably something that your heart needs to hear today. So, the first thing I quit was commitments that I didn't have the strength to do any longer. And so, the first one of those was my job. This was a big decision for me. It's something I definitely took some time about. It really didn't make any sense financially for me to quit my job, but there was just no way I could do the things I was doing before I suddenly lost my husband. My world had been completely shattered. Everything changed in an instant. And so my job was stressful even on a normal day. And after my husband died, I just knew I did not have the capacity to keep going in that role. And I realized that not everybody can do that. And it was a very hard decision for me to make. One I did not make lightly, and I prayed a lot about it. And I sought the input from the people I was closest with and what they thought. And God really led me to take that step of faith and to trust Him that if I gave Him my broken heart and allowed myself the time and space I needed to start healing, that He would meet my financial needs. And I can tell you that He absolutely did. So that's the first thing that I quit. I quit commitments that I knew I didn't have the strength to keep going with. The second thing I quit in my grief was trying to get people to understand my journey. And if you're a widow, I would imagine this is really hitting home for you because no one understands what it's like to be in your shoes. And so I have actually found that no one understands the broken heart of a widow more than another widow. But even then, no one knows exactly what it's like to be in your shoes. And so trying to get people to understand that and explaining to them, it was really just exhausting. And I came to realize that they just didn't understand my level of brokenness. And that is understandable, but who can make sense of it? I couldn't make sense of where I was. And so I had to get to the point where I let go of what people thought I should do and how I should grieve and the decisions I should make, and instead entrust them to God, and that He understood. He understood fully what people didn't understand, what I didn't even understand. So if that is you and you find yourself in that place where you want to make certain decisions, but you know that maybe family members or friends won't understand what you're doing and why, it's okay. You don't have to explain yourself to them, and just learning to let go of that and quitting that need to have approval, which is something we all have. We want to people to understand. We want people to accept what we're doing, but that's not always the case. And so you need to do, widow, what is best for you. So quit trying to get people to understand your decisions and do what you know is good and right and what God is leading you to do. So the third thing I quit doing in my grief was saying the word never. Now, this took me some time to get to that place because grief is a journey. And I know some people aren't crazy about that description of grief, but it truly is, because it is always moving in a direction. It never stays the same. The twists and turns and the layers and the things that come in your grief, it changes, it evolves. And so maybe early on in your grief, there are decisions that you've made and you say, I will never move. I will never sell my house. I will never change my jobs. I will never, just fill in the blank, right? So these are decisions that you make, and it's okay maybe for a time that you say, I'll never. Early on, I decided I was never going to sell my house. And so that was the right decision at that time. But what I have learned now that I'm 3.5 years later is that that decision changed. And so the point I want to make here is hold those decisions loosely, because they could be the very things, widow, that is keeping you bound in hopelessness and unable to move forward. One thing that breaks my heart a lot when I hear it is when widows say that it never gets any better. And so I believe that's a decision. Are you deciding that it never gets any better? And if you're early on in your grief, yes, it feels that way. I completely understand that feeling because I felt the same way. But as you move forward, as you learn how to carry your loss and your love in your life forward, things won't always be as heavy as they are right now. But that's a decision that you get to make. You get to trust God with your future, this next chapter. What does He want for your life? But if you dig your heels in and say, I'm never going to do this, ABC, then it'll probably keep you stuck. So learn to hold those things loosely, and each step of the way, every day, what is it that God is moving you maybe to quit and let go of that you said never? And maybe it's the very thing He's putting His finger on, wanting you to quit saying that and to allow Him to move you into the future and the good life that He has ahead for you. Okay, so the fourth thing that I quit, and this is a really big one, and please hear my heart, is I quit grieving on my own. And so there is never a time that we should walk this life alone. And in grief, especially then, do we need others to come alongside us and care for us and have a safe place where we can share our hearts and be open and honest. And I get that there's a time for just maybe taking yourself into a quiet spot and minimizing the amount of people that you let into your world. But if you spend too much time there, you will start to isolate yourself. And one of the main complaints of widows, and it's very valid, is that we feel lonely. However, sometimes that loneliness is self-inflicted, that we have shut out everybody from our world. That decision to shelter ourselves and not allow anyone into our heart really keeps us stuck in hopelessness. And so I want to share with you just how that seeking support was such a huge step in my healing journey as a widow. It was about 8 months after my husband had passed away, and I had just gone through my first Christmas and my first New Year's, and I was just at the lowest of lows, and I just did not know how I could keep going the way that I was. And so I thought that my faith was strong and that just by leaning on God that I'd be able to get through. And plus I was a women's biblical counselor, so why would I need somebody else to help me? You know, reality check, we all need help and none of us have arrived. And so making the decision to quit trying to do grief on my own was probably one of the biggest things that helped me move forward and start to heal. So I reached out for support. I did Grief Share for an entire year. So it's 12 or 13 weeks, and I did 3 sessions. And each time I got a little more clarity. I started to feel validated in my struggles. I started to not feel as alone. Now, support does not mean that your pain goes away. That's not true. But it does help you to get in touch with those things that you're feeling and have a safe place to voice those and have others sit around and say, yeah, I feel that too. And so you feel more normal in your grief and not like you're crazy. So if you are walking this path, widow, this is my just encouragement, and please don't try to do it on your own. So God never made us to live in a life just isolated by ourselves. He made us for community. And so if that is where you're at right now, I understand the fear of reaching out for support. And the first time I did that, I cried the whole time that I talked to the lady that ran the Grief Share, but that's okay. And so if that is you and you know that you need to look for support, but you just don't know where or how, I have a program for widows. It's biblically based and it's called the Redeemed Widows Roadmap. And you can find more information in the description. you can schedule a time to talk with me and we'll see where you're at in your journey and if this would be a good fit for you. But don't try to do this journey on your own. You will do so much better and experience so much more healing and peace by allowing others into your brokenness. And so if you reach out to me or Grief Share or some other program, please don't isolate yourself and get the support that your heart needs. The fifth thing I quit in my grief, and I shared in the beginning how this is controversial, and it really is, and I hesitate to even share it, but I believe that it's important. It's a discussion that we need to have as widows and to give ourselves permission. But I quit forcing myself into places I wasn't ready for. And for me, that place was church. And so please hear me out. Please hear my heart about this. I have done discipleship for years of women, and being a part of the body of Christ and going to worship with other believers in person, not from your couch, is what God wants us to do. And so it kind of seems contradictory to my last point, but just hear me out for a minute. The church that I attended, that my children grew up in, that my husband and I, we dedicated our children there and shared our testimony, and it was where my husband's funeral was. I tried. I went several times that first 8 months, and every time it was just more than my heart could bear. I was just so broken, so devastated. I didn't care about anything that was going on. I remember one of the times there was a baby dedication and whatever they were talking about, just over my head. And I was just sitting there like my world is gone. And I don't want to be sitting here listening to this because I don't care about it. And so that sounds kind of harsh, but that's where I was. So I tried, but I couldn't handle being around a large number of people. It was too much for my broken heart. So my girls and I, we started watching services from at home, and we were still worshiping God. I was still drawing near to him. I wasn't completely isolated because I was around other believers, especially at Grief Share, and I had my family, and I was still spending a lot of time with God. But I just needed that time. It's kind of like if you were hurt in an accident. I share it like this in the book that I wrote, How Am I a Widow? And I can put the link for that in the description as well. But it's almost like if you were in a car accident and your body was all broken up and you're in the hospital and you can't go to church, nobody's going to judge you for that, right? Well, when you lose your husband and your heart is in ICU, you might not be able to attend large gatherings in person, and that's okay. And you have permission. You have permission to do that. But please, please, please hear me. This is not meant to be forever. So when the time was right, as I started to heal, God started nudging my heart. It's time. It's time to start going back to church. Now I found a new church, and side note, I've heard that, I forget the number, 80% of widows start going to a new church, something like that. And I get it. It's too painful. All the memories there that are tied to your husband, that empty seat. And so I just needed a fresh start. So when God started nudging me that it was time, I went back. And I can tell you that that was a pivotal point too, that the people God brought into my life, and especially one dear woman that became a very good friend of mine that was also a widow, that really helped me to heal even further. It was just such an important thing to do. So hear my heart. I'm not suggesting that you quit church, but if you're struggling with putting yourself out there in certain situations, really consider what your broken heart needs right now. And maybe God is calling you to a time of just having a few people speak into your life and spending time with him. And he will let you know when the time is right to start opening yourself up to going to larger gatherings. And on the flip side of this, I've also heard some widows share that going to the church gathering was a huge healing point for them, and they went the whole time. They never stopped. So my point in sharing this is this, that you need to make the decision that is right for you. And people won't understand this either because they don't understand the level of devastation that you feel and the fear and the struggles. And so you need to focus on a time of caring for yourself. And if that means that you worship from home for a little bit, it's okay. And just take it to the Lord. And please, please, please hear me. I never advocate for somebody to not go to church and worship the Lord, but perhaps your heart just needs a little time and space to seek the Lord in the quiet comfort of your home. But don't stay there for long. Get back in church and find some people that can come alongside you and encourage you in your grief journey. So as we wrap up today, widow, I just want to encourage you that healing in your journey, it's not about being strong. It's about letting go. It's about giving yourself permission to do what is best for you. It's about pressing into God with all the raw emotions that you feel and allowing Him to lead you, not deciding, not predetermining what life should look like for you. Because when we open ourselves up to what God has, really there's no limit to what He can do in your life and this next chapter for you. It's also about letting others into your journey. Quit trying to do it on your own. I can't emphasize that enough. Please find support. Find some other widows. No one understands the broken heart of a widow more than another widow. So find some safe people that you can share your heart with, be open with. Find a group of believers that can come alongside you and continue to worship God. If you need to pull back and do that privately for a little while, that's okay. Just be open to what God has for you. And don't try to get other people to understand the decisions that you're making. You have a relationship with God, and I'm confident that He will lead you in what you need when you open yourself up to Him. So what's something that you quit in your grief journey? And I'd love to hear that from you. You can share it in the comments below, and either what you have quit or what you know you need to quit. Anyway, God bless, and I will see you soon.